The whole white magic, black magic thing is a lie. I know this may come as a surprise because we do live in a world where we have good and evil, but it's important to understand that what's traditional called witchcraft or magic, I mean, this is just a word for a natural flow of invisible energy. It's not about either white or black. Real witchcraft is about restoring balance, and sometimes that balance needs to be restored by honoring negative emotions like anger, hatred, or resentment. And if you're tired of being afraid about messing up with something that you shouldn't, then this video is definitely for you. The reason why this topic is so important is because it is very important whenever we are talking about feminine power to reclaim the full spectrum of our feminine power. Whenever we fragment ourselves into this dualistic point of view of good and evil, we are basically disconnecting ourselves from half of our own potential. And we think that if we don't look at this thing, nothing's gonna happen, but that's not the reality of things. The reality of things is that if you deny your shadow and you do not acknowledge it and learn to transmute its own power, somebody else in the world will. And this entire channel is dedicated to women reconnecting with the raw power of their feminine energy. And for that, we sometimes have to go into subjects that might be taboo or scary because of the amount of conditioning that has been indoctrinated upon all of us in the planet for thousands of years. So we're gonna dive into this conversation with an open mind. Some things might be triggering, some things might not necessarily land fully. All I'm asking for you is to first watch the whole video because we're gonna expand on things and I don't want you to leave in the middle of an uncomfortable part. But also keep in mind that if you experience fear whenever I say something or rejection, it's just an invitation to notice what parts of yourself are rejecting what I'm saying, what parts of yourself are responding with immediate fear, and which parts, if you sit along with them, might open up to even more aspects of yourself that maybe are not so obvious right now. My name is Silvana Kamala. I am a modern Tantra teacher and a PhD candidate in Ancestry healer and the founder of the Venusian Academy. I help women transform their wounds into power with my holistic method, Venusian Tantra. All right, so let's break down the truth about witchcraft, the truth about the dualistic point of view of like good and bad, where does that really come from, and why embracing all of you, even the lower impulses, is part of your empowerment journey. So let's start with the heart of witchcraft, right? Like this word is so loaded. This word creates a lot of negative reactions in people because it has this connotation of being bad and evil. We even see it in fairy tales, right? Like the bad evil witch that goes after the princess or that poisons the princess. So all of these concepts of the bad witch have been deeply embedded in culture, in fairy tales, in everything. We also have the whole like you are either a good woman or a bad woman. This like very hard line that is dictated by models of thinking that are ancient. They are patriarchal ancient ways of controlling, and generation after generation we forget the truth. But the thing about truth is that it is felt in the body. And this is the truth that is awakening now, which is like, wait a minute, what if I question these things that I have been giving, that I have so easily accepted because it has been passed down to me generation after generation, and I explore it a little bit more, right? So this is basically an invitation to do that. And in order to do that, we have to understand that the heart of witchcraft is based on non-duality. It's basically an action and reaction. It is a cause and effect type of energy, and it is meant to restore and bring back balance. The witch archetype is not split between black and white. She serves the earth, and she serves the earth by restoring balance whenever balance is lost, not by necessarily picking sides. The witch is guided by her own intuition, and her intuition is the goddess's communication system with all women. The important thing to understand here is that a woman that knows her truth, knows her power, is connected to her energetic centers and open to receiving. She is naturally connected to the goddess. And the concept of the goddess is the spectrum of Shakti, of all the faces of the feminine. Some of them are gentle, loving, and sweet, and some of them are fierce and scary. And there is a reason for this, because Shakti, in the spectrum of being everything that exists, she shows up in the energy that is required and needed in that present moment in order to restore balance. So the role of the witch is simply to show up to restore balance, and she's able to determine that based on her own intuition and her own emotional state. Whenever we look at what has happened in the last 20 years, right? Like this third wave of spiritual awakening, we can see very obviously that spirituality is now sold as this thing of love and light, or just the dark. It's very polarized. It's really hard to find more of an open spectrum spirituality where there's voices that honor both. Is pretty much like one or the other. And I myself have done this, and I have done this because since I hear so much the love and light spirituality, I've really tried to balance that out, like the narrative of the world in that I move in, by really diving deeper into the darker side of spirituality. When I say dark, I don't mean bad. I simply mean hidden, esoteric, invisible to us. It's like the mystery, the parts that are not so obviously, it's not about ascension, but it's more about descension into the body, nature, and the mysteries of the earth, blood, and the yoni. So whenever we have this love and light experience, oftentimes we find women that calls themselves I'm a white witch. I only do white magic. And what I'm hearing there is oh, I only send love and light, and I only act for the highest good of all. The thing about that statement, the highest good of all, is that it is very arrogant to think that the highest good of all involves just this one phase of love and light, because sometimes the highest good for all is calling for a more fierce aspect of reality. And this is where this deep fragmentation that we have been deeply conditioned with really needs to we really need to question it, and we really need to feel that inner distortion in ourselves, because it's almost like the good and bad. And by the way, just before I continue, I am going to address black magic when we're looking at really horrible stuff, and the difference between very balanced magic that basically calls for the moment. So I understand there is a side of the dark side of magic that is really dark. So we'll get to that at the end, because I want to set the foundation so we can land into that argument. So because witchcraft is neutral, it is simply a channel for energy. And as a channel for energy, it basically uses our own energy and our intention in order to channel a particular emotion using elements. It can be just visualization, or it can be herbs, it can be plants, it can be candles, fire, water, blood, shells, whatever tool is available on the earth that we can find. It's meant to become a means of extending an energy that it's naturally, that we're naturally connected with. It's a form of creating a bridge between the material and the spiritual world, and that is the role of the witch in its purest essence. So I'm gonna give you an example. I've read a lot of books on magic and witchcraft, and they say oh, your intention and your energy is what matters the most. Make sure you're not angry or fearful or in a bad mood to do magic. And I strongly disagree with this, because if magic is just a channel and there is an anger, right, that anger is gonna go somewhere. What women have been conditioned to is to eat up the anger and just swallow it and internalize it and create illness and disease from it. Doing witchcraft in an angry energy is a form of channeling energy. The thing about it is that whenever we embark into a more left-hand path of exploring the depth of our spiritual freedom and sovereignty, you have to take responsibility for your actions, yourself, and your life, right? there isn't a lot of room for victimhood whenever we are tapping into the sovereignty of our power, especially our magical power. In plain words, action and reaction. You have to take responsibility for everything that happens in your life. You have to take responsibility for the energy that you put out there. And the thing about this is that sometimes if you are really angry and you want to channel that anger and that rage or that hatred into magical practice, and you go and put that intention there, then you have to show up for the impact of that. And a lot of times, whenever we treat magic at this conscious level, we are prepared for the bounce back because it was an energetic channel. So this isn't for the women that are still afraid of their own shadows. This is for the women that really want to like tap into the water and understand that life has a way of naturally correcting herself. And whenever we embody our goddess selves, we respond to the divine mother. We respond to karma itself, to Saturn, the Lord of time and space. We respond to the natural consequences of the balance that works with life. And that keeps us humble. It's life itself. It's not some made up, old male god with a beard that we respond to. It's not some rules made up 3,000 years ago to control your sexuality and your freedom and your relationships and the way that you relate to nature, God, source, and other people. This is a self-imposed rule system that you create whenever you choose to explore your feminine spiritual power and whenever you choose to engage with these types of energies. One of the key elements in order to really disentangle this division and the fear and the categorization of white magic versus black magic, it is rooted on patriarchal and religious conditioning, because this is fear-based. Religion is fear-based spiritualization of a control system, of a political system. So whenever we fear our own emotional and spiritual power, and we only allow ourselves to experience the ones that have been properly accepted by these systems, we keep repressing everything else that is not accepted under that. And this is what keeps perpetuating that split, the part of us that is so unconscious because it's like so hidden because we don't give it enough space to really express itself. And the thing about spiritual power is that it's something that it doesn't really start with us. It's something that we inherit from our lineage. Even if you come from a lineage that is deeply, deeply, deeply controlled, there's ancestors that surpass that were way before that control, right? And the more control, usually the more power there is, because there is the more fear. If I have so much power and they tell me this is bad, I'm gonna put a lot of fear into that power in order to cage it and then unconsciously give it to someone else. Feminine empowerment starts with spiritual empowerment, a spiritual sovereignty, and the mastery of this fear with the darkness, with the night, with the lunar elements, with magic, with the invisible, with the esoteric. This is being afraid of half of our nature. You can live like that if you want, but if you want to experience full feminine empowerment in its full light and spectrum, then you need to learn how to relate to this energy that has been repressed generation after generation, because it's something that's really old. It's not like you just tap into it and understand it immediately. It's sometimes a lifelong journey, and it's a lifelong journey because of everything that has happened in the last 5,000 years, right? And whenever you question all of these beliefs and get curious with magic, with your own, the parts of you that were maybe previously demonized, you also create an energetic outlet for the energy and the dreams and the desires that your ancestors had that they did not get to experience. So becoming awakened and spiritually, like awakening our consciousness to the truth of what we are, is also our responsibility with the ones that came before us, because we do have liberties here right now that they didn't have in the past. Now, by using this magic and accepting that there's no black or white, it's simply magic, and if it makes you afraid, you're probably gonna categorize it as black magic. And if you're able to question that, what you're doing is that you are creating a channel for ancestral healing. Believe it or not, a lot of the rage and emotion that we feel, sometimes that it can be overwhelming, it comes from our ancestors as well. And this is the importance of embracing shadow work, not just as like the cool thing to do right now, but it's an integration of what's unacceptable within yourself and unacceptable within your lineage. And that's why we, in my High Voltage Woman program, we study Lilith with so much depth, because Lilith is the ostracized part of our psyche, the most repressed aspect of ourselves. It just goes into Lilith. So whenever we work with her, we are tapping into intergenerational raw power of suppression. When we can release the suppressed power and consciously connect with it and use it and channel it for our life, yes, we will get to create a life that we enjoy, a life that is honoring everything and everyone that came before us, and at the same time we are healing our entire ancestral lineage. In the shamanic culture, they say the healing that I do on me is healing that is going to affect 7 generations before and 7 generations after. We are connected. Even if we don't seem like we are deeply connected beyond physical. We are connected on a spiritual way. In order to really understand the depth of my own darkness, the depth of my own Lilith, we look at the birth chart. And the birth chart, Lilith is going to be in one of the 12 signs. Whenever you understand the meaning of what this Lilith is holding energetically, and you see how that translates to your life, you're going to see a pattern in your family. Especially, like, Lilith moves through the woman of the lineage. And even if you're a man and you're watching this is Lilith is something that you can see in the woman in your lineage. So you'll be able to observe it because the energy is being worked more strongly through the woman, and for you it will be in your anima, which is the feminine side of your psyche. Whenever we learn to how to master our own inner Lilith, we are basically tapping our power archetype. And the power archetype provides a containment for the exploration of these magical practices that maybe are scary for me at first. Because it is a way that I am using my own ancestors and my lineage wherever in the world I come from, and I am using a human feminine archetype that lives in all of us, in our psyche, as the container for this exploration. And I also understand and respect the laws of nature, and I take responsibility for how I show up. So whenever we're able to do this and learn about these power archetypes, we create a little bit more space for the exploration. And then we learn that karma is self-correcting. Nature is self-correcting. And in order to really master something, you have to fall sometimes. You have to make mistakes. One of the ways in which people throw black magic around without even knowing unconsciously is by speaking ill of other people, especially when they're emotionally charged. Like, this person is XYZ. Technically, if we're gonna talk about witchcraft from this point of like white or black magic, technically this is black magic, because it is sending energy out, right? That comes from a place that is not love and light. But if that energetic output, if we neutralize this and we stop seeing it as like, oh, that's black magic, that's bad, and we simply allow the energy to flow, we're gonna notice how life kind of corrects us, because the things that we speak, oftentimes we have to be responsible for them. Life is going to come around, and then we get to look at the mirror, and in that way you are kind of in a way free of karma, because you accept your karma. You don't fall into victim mode whenever things come back around. And then you understand how much you're willing to take and how much you're willing to dish out. At the end of the day, this is the mastery of a spiritual power. Spiritual power is not just this like, and there are beings that the role is just to embody one polarity, right? And then we have these like saints, that are just like in absolute bliss. And then we have some individuals that come to embody the opposite. In non-duality, we understand that neither one is better than the other. They are serving two sides of the same coin. And whenever we want to embrace our feminine power, we have to accept our own contradictions. Accept that I will constantly contradict myself, but I trust life to correct me. I trust life to be able to align me if I go off one side more than the other. And this is what spiritual sovereignty is about. It's about trusting life, trusting your own power, and understanding that you will experience the consequences of your own actions. But until you try and see what are the consequences of your actions, you're not going to know. You're going to stay dormant like a child, not really knowing what's out there. In order to step into empowerment, we have to step into spiritual sovereignty. And that means conquering your fears. And that also means really questioning this whole thing of white magic and black magic. It's simply magic. So I did say that I was gonna go into a little bit of an explanation of the, like whenever we look at really, really dark magic, and from an esoteric perspective, the most powerful substance to use in any practical in any magical practice is blood. And the most powerful blood that there is menstrual blood, because it's a blood that does not come from violence. It's a blood that comes from the potential of life. So it is charged with chi, with life force. This is the most powerful substance, right? Whenever we look at the typical modern day black magicians, they're also using blood, but they're not using menstrual blood. They're using other creatures' blood, whether that is humans or animals. That is a way of trying to hijack this power that belongs to the witch, that belongs to the menstruating woman, and the means and the energetic impact that I cause in extracting that substance. That's where the distortion originates from. Why does this exist in the world right now? Because we're in a deeply distorted state. So I am very much against, that type of magic personally, because that is based on my own exploration. And I realize that is a boundary for me. That is where Saturn shows up and says, this is a hard no. And I stand firmly in it. And my warrior stands firmly in that. And that's where I will use my own power to protect whatever is valuable to me. And for me, what's valuable is the respect of life and the honoring of life and the protection of life in whatever form it comes. So the witch has her own spiritual value system. And that's what we create whenever we dive into magical practice or esotericism. A magical practice it can be tarot, it can be reading angel numbers, it can even be dream interpretation. Don't think of the witch as like the one in the cauldron or just doing hexes. Like that is one aspect of it. But there's kitchen witches, women that are using intention with fire, herbs, and food in order to bring in some sort of healing of energetic movement. So get out of the fear of black magic, white magic, or I'm just a good witch, I'm just a white witch. No, witch is witch. Witch is the woman that has embraced the power, the magical power. She has opened up to her own priestess, and she is a willing bridge between the spiritual world and the natural world. So I want to leave you with a quick practice / invitation, if you dare, and that is to, in a moment that you are experiencing a very strong negative emotion like anger or hatred or resentment or absolute rage, do a little ritual. Choose your practice. Like if you tell me like I don't resonate with this whole witch thing, but I read tarot, then by all means go do a tarot reading in your rage. If you're like, no, but I have an altar, I light up a candle once in a while, then go and do that. Embrace your practice in a moment that you are in this energy, and make your intention be to experience the depth of your power whenever you unleash your own shadow into your practical magic. And then observe what happens in the next 7 days in your life. Observe what are the consequences of it. Observe what are the blessings and gifts of it. Observe how you feel, what happens, what you experience. This is how you really tap into your own spiritual power. by practicing it, by playing it. And I know everybody wants a guide to tell them how to do it and why to do it, but spiritual sovereignty means that you have your path and I have mine. And all I'm doing in the Venusian Academy is sharing my framework for my own spiritual journey, but ultimately you have to choose yours and you have to walk through your own path on your own. And in High Voltage Woman, that's what we work through. Like there's all of these teachings, you know, history, goddess religion, the body, the yoni, the blood mysteries, the Mahaviryas, Shakta Tantra, and then at the end, what is your system? What is your organizational method? How are you going to direct your own energy and consciously use it so you're not unconsciously giving it for free to the powers that be and not using what actually belongs to you? So I invite you to use this power to really play with it, practice, and to face your fear of potentially messing up with something, because that's the only way you're going to conquer it. It is by facing it, by experiencing it for yourself, and then you will get to actually design your own system. So I recommend candle rituals. Those are the easiest. I also love doing rituals with water, boiling herbs. These are some of South American indigenous traditional rituals, and basil gets used there a lot. So work with the plants, work with attracts you, connect with your cultural roots, and explore this. I guarantee you, I promise you that you're going to leave this process more empowered and trusting more in your own abilities than if you don't go through it and you stay with the fearful separation of just saying, I'm a white witch. Just neutralize that. And if you are interested, I have check out my description box below, because I have the Discover Your Power Archetype ebook. Very shortly I'm gonna have a quiz, so maybe you also find that there. And let me know in the comments how this landed for you, if you tried it out, what did you find, and if you're willing to face the fear of this separation by truly embracing your practical magic. Okay, looking forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.